As fighters from the Russian militia group Wagner barreled towards Moscow, the surprise events were no doubt being watched in Mali and Central African Republic. Wagner's mercenaries have been playing an increasingly central role in long-running battles against insurgents in the two countries. According to leaked US documents, Wagner has operations in at least 8 African countries. In Central African Republic, its fighters have battled several rebel insurgencies since 2018. In Mali, the United Nations and Western powers say Wagner has committed possible war crimes alongside Malian forces battling jihadist militants. Mali and Russia have denied the allegations. Mali's military leaders say they're not hosting Wagner mercenaries, but trainers helping local troops with equipment bought from Russia. So what could the impact from the Wagner revolt be? At the weekend, spokespeople for the governments in Bamako and Bangui declined to comment on how the turmoil might affect their security strategies. But the sudden rift has created a diplomatic quandary. Both countries have been seeking closer ties with Russia. They have in the past said that their military cooperation agreements are with Russia and not Wagner. Last year, Moscow also committed to send Mali shipments of fuel, fertilizer and food worth about $100 million. Mali and Central African Republic's move into Russia's orbit has come as the Kremlin sought greater influence in Francophone Africa. That was to the dismay of former colonial power France, which has withdrawn thousands of troops from the region. It had faced anti-French protests and worsening relations with several West African governments. Wagner's arrival also allegedly presented it with a financial opportunity. Last October, the US accused the mercenaries of exploiting natural resources in Central African Republic, Mali and elsewhere to fund fighting in Ukraine, a charge Russia rejected at the time.
Email exchanges from inside the BBC, they talk about the risk of violating Indian laws. It's easier to rake up the freedom of speech debate, but does it give anyone a free pass to knowingly violate the law? America supports India because it needs India's support in return. And India is working with the US because it suits India's interests. This is how geopolitics works. Last night, he diffused a crisis with his defense minister. But today, Netanyahu was confronted with a new problem. His cabinet seems to have rebelled against him. The UK is looking at the Indian subcontinent to fill its coffers. That India seems to be negotiating from a position of power, like a partner and not a former colony.
And there they go. It looks like
The US and Russia are dangerously close to an armed conflict. This year, 2023, New Delhi will be the capital of global diplomacy. For a country as diverse as ours, with 88% of the population illiterate, it was a very big deal to write a constitution, and that too, the world's largest. Meanwhile, if we may, here's a Republic Day gift from India for the BBC. A list of suggestions for the BBC for their upcoming documentaries. Number 1. The Kohinoor and the colonial loot. Number 2, an outdated monarchy and unhealthy obsession with the royals. Number 3, racism in 2023. We're waiting.